We began with our first series of videos on the central questions of philosophy. What is philosophy? Getting a better understanding of the questions that philosophers deal with and some of the answers that they pose for those questions. And then we moved on to have a brief overview of classical Greek philosophy. We looked at the views and the views of the people that led up to our major players in Greek philosophy, classical Greek philosophy, namely that led up to Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. And we're going to be turning after this set of videos to the views of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, and we're going to be looking at their proposed solution to some of the problems of philosophy that we now understand. But in order for us to be able to do that, we need to be able to get a better handle on thinking logically. That is the method that philosophers go about looking at the philosophical problems, answering it. And what we're going to begin now is a set of 3 series on thinking logically. The first one being on understanding arguments, the second one being on evaluating arguments, and the third will get us into some of the details of what makes a good argument and what makes a bad argument from the perspective of logic. But let's now take a look at what we're going to be covering in our first part, the one on understanding arguments. We're going to talk a little bit about answering philosophical problems and questions and the answers that philosophers have come in, and then we're going to address the question of how do we go about evaluating the different answers to a philosophical problem or to a philosophical question. How do we decide whether an answer is a good answer or a solution to the problem is a good answer to the problem? We're going to see that part of the answer involves the concepts of logic, which involves the concepts of reason and arguments. Arguments are going to be central, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So we'll get clear on what those concepts are, and then we'll talk about the parts, the components of an argument. And then we'll talk about how we will go about analyzing arguments. We'll be talking about argument analysis. And the first part of that is going to be to reconstruct an argument. It could be in philosophy, it could be same technique in anything else, but so our first part we're going to be talking about these various topics.